Hi, I'm John McElroy, talking all things automotive, and hello to all of you who are back to watch my reports on the automotive industry. Today I want to talk about how China has hit peak auto, which doesn't seem possible because everything you hear about the Chinese auto industry is that it's booming. Sales of new energy vehicles are going through the roof, exports are exploding, production keeps growing, and all of that is true, but all that activity is covering up a looming problem. Sales of passenger vehicles in China really are not growing anymore, and at some point in the future, they'll actually start to fall. I know that sounds crazy. After all, last year, BYD, the biggest car company in China, moved past Nissan and Honda and Ford in global sales. If it stays on its current growth path, it's possible that BYD will surpass General Motors towards the end of this year, and it may be only a matter of time before BYD becomes the largest car company in the world. Other Chinese car companies like Li Auto, Geely, Great Wall, they're also growing fast. That's because they've all bet big on new energy vehicles, or NEVs, which includes battery electrics and plug-in hybrids, including extended range hybrids. And sales have been spectacular. They now account for nearly half the market in China. This year, the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers says that China will build 16 million NEVs. That's as many vehicles of all kinds that will be sold in the entire U.S. market. Meanwhile, Chinese exports are exploding. Over the last 4 years, they grew 300%. And in 2023, China surpassed Japan to become the largest vehicle exporter in the world. Last year, China exported around 6 million vehicles. That's more than all the vehicles that are sold in Japan, or in Germany, or any other market in the world except for the United States. This year, the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers expects that to go up to 6.2 million. And it's not just with passenger vehicles. China's production of commercial vehicles, including heavy trucks, buses, and vans, has been growing very strong. According to S&P Global, last year, China manufactured 31.4 million vehicles, both passenger and commercial. That's more than the US and European markets put together. Even so, the Chinese auto industry is starting to face some significant headwinds. For one thing, a lot of countries are uncomfortable with all those Chinese cars pouring into their markets. The US has already effectively blocked the Chinese automakers with tariffs and with bans on connected car software and hardware from China. The European Union significantly raised its tariffs on Chinese EVs. Last year, Mexico raised its tariffs on imported cars to 20%. Brazil is raising tariffs on electric imports, and they're going to top out at 35% next year. And they're all doing that because of all the Chinese imports flooding into their markets. In fact, the Rhodium Group, which is a research company, says China's vehicle exports have peaked and are not going to grow anymore. Also, the rate of growth in sales of new energy vehicles has slowed a lot in China. The Rhodium Group says they shot up 23% in 2022. They shot up 44% in 2023, but last year they only grew 8%. That could be a real problem for Chinese automakers. So far, only 2 car companies making NEVs are profitable: BYD and Li Auto. If sales are starting to plateau, that's going to make it very difficult for others to become profitable. Maybe this is why 2 of China's giant car companies announced they want to merge. Both Chang'an and Dongfeng announced plans in early February to merge. They didn't explicitly say that they were going to merge with each other, but it looks like that's what will happen. And if they do, they could become the largest car company in China, even bigger than BYD. But they'd only want to do this if they saw trouble on the horizon. And here's what I think they see. China's home market for passenger cars is stalling out. In 2024, Chinese consumers bought 1 million fewer cars than they did in 2016. In fact, over the last decade, according to numbers from the China Passenger Car Association, sales of new cars have gone up and down, but overall, they've averaged about 22 million a year. Last year, it was 22.8 million, or just barely above trend. So what's going on here? How come China's home market has stalled out? How come car sales have been bouncing around 22 million a year for the last decade? I see several things going on here. First, China's economy is not growing as fast as it used to. Second, the real estate bubble burst, and millions of Chinese households are upside down on the apartments they bought, or they put deposits on apartments several years ago that still have not been built. And now they're gun shy about buying big ticket items like cars, or they don't even have the money to buy one. Third, maybe China has hit the saturation point of people who are going to buy cars. With superb public transportation, it's possible that a lot of people figured they just don't need the hassle of owning an automobile. Now we come to number 4, population decline. As you can see from the chart here, China's population peaked in 2020 at 1.426 billion people, and then it started to decline. In 2022, India surpassed China in population. According to Worldometer, which bases its calculations on data from the United Nations, China's population will fall to 1.416 billion by the end of this year. That's 10 million fewer people than just 5 years ago. And it's 3.2 million fewer than just last year. So you can see that the rate of decline is accelerating. I don't know if it's had that much of an impact on car sales yet, but it's definitely going to have a huge impact in the years to come. This is why China is so keen to export as many vehicles as it can. Its home market has pretty much stopped growing. There's a price war raging that makes it almost impossible to make profits making NEVs. Worse, China has a massive amount of overcapacity, and it's been counting on exports to be a safety valve that pushes that capacity into other markets. But exports have just about stopped growing. Now, peak auto isn't just a problem with China. All the major markets in the world, like the US, Europe, Japan, and South Korea, have seen car sales stall and start to fall. It's a global trend. And who knows, maybe the Chinese could still turn things around. It has one of the lowest rates of cars per capita of any country in the world, so there could be plenty of upside if it can get more people to buy cars. But as of right now, none of the numbers show that happening. And despite all the media attention on booming exports, soaring NEV sales, and BYD growing faster than any other major car company, I think most people will be stunned to learn that China's home car market really is not growing.